don't know what happened there, but anyway, that was the intro that just happened, so it's all good. Anyway, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Pro Enzo Vidz, and this is the Ankle Breaker Podcast, episode 53. So we are now 53 episodes in, and to join me this evening is All Out Section yet again. So look, I know it's been a tough couple of weeks for the Tigers, bro, but how you been? How have you been?
Well, suffering from the embarrassment that I copped at Belmore, I am doing quite well. We had an amazing round of footy. Unfortunately, the week didn't end the way I wanted to. I sat on that hill, blistering hot, scorching weather, sweating every part of my body, surrounded by none other than Doggies fans, left, right, and centre. I was hearing those drums, and I'm going to tell you, my heart was beating when we were close, but Bulldogs hung on. But other than that, I'm doing great. I'm keen to get into this podcast. Episode 53, we got some mad topics up ahead. And round 4, I am keen for this round of footy. It is setting up to be a very, very good round. So let's get straight into it.
Oh, definitely. Some of the games this week are massive. And, I think there's no doubt that these games will be ones to watch, no doubt. But, that's good to hear, bro. And obviously, I'm going pretty well myself. Obviously, Manly have been in good form, so that helps. But in general, been all right.
That's great.
But this is another podcast underway, and I will just say hello to the live chat just quickly. So we've got 5 people watching so far. Jason Reader, hello. SS Storm fan, CJ Moxley. Yeah, we will talk about that sad situation that happened this afternoon. So we'll go for that in a second. And thank you to everyone that's tuned in so far. I really do appreciate it. All right. So as we know, it's just disappointing because it's so sudden, and I did not expect it to happen today, but it has. And John Sattler has sadly passed away at age 80. So and apparently this was through dementia. So unfortunately, it's a common case with many older people. It does cause that effect that eventually gets to them, makes them sick and ill, and death comes. And but sad because John Sattler was an icon for South Sydney and just an icon for the game in general. So it was just a very, very sad news to break this afternoon. So All That Section, if you want to just give your thoughts on Sattler and his career and just how he sort of made the game it was today, especially having such a big integral part to South Sydney's success. What's your fond memories of John Sattler?
Yeah, well, look, I would have loved to have been around during John Sattler's time. He was one of the best at South Sydney, and really was the he really was the benchmark of how players should be. And look, unfortunately, I was not familiar with John Sattler before, but hearing the news of him passing away, I did go back to some highlights of him. He was a top player, and it's just very sad that we've lost one of the game's greats. My condolences and love and prayers are with Sattler's family and friends. Hopefully, they are doing all right during these tough times. But yeah, John Sattler, he was an icon for South Sydney, and I have no doubt that they will pay tribute to him in South's upcoming match. So, look, Sattler, it's sad to see it. It's sad to see it happen, but I'm sure that he lived a great life, and he also had an amazing career. So, yeah, rest in peace, John Sattler. Condolences are with his family and friends.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I said before, it's just a real shock. I mean, didn't expect him to be that famous name to pass away today, but there you go. It's just a matter of things that happen during life. It's life. Like, you can't control what happens, but it's sad. But yeah, like a bit like you, Champa, I didn't really get to see much of Sattler, obviously, because he was a player that played many years ago, not around the generation that we started watching. But seeing stories and seeing some highlights of really old highlights of him, of how he played the game, he was one of the toughest players I've probably seen on a highlights reel. Probably, probably just that broken jaw moment will live through many people's memories forever. And funnily enough, I think it was the grand final where they played Manly. So while it's sad, it's really a coincidence that they do play Manly the same weekend. So it's funny how things work like that. But look, all I'll say is that it's obviously very disappointing and sad, and I hope his family are going okay. including his son Scott, who did play a couple of games for Balmain or someone, I think, back in the 70s. I'm not too sure, but either way, just hope the family's going all right, and hopefully, they just get over it, and hopefully, well, I think it's but like I said, dementia's obviously such a big thing that happens to elder people. So it's just sad that someone like Sattler has become the victim of it. But hopefully his family are doing all right. But anyway, yeah. So hopefully they're all doing okay. But look, we will go through the normal sort of starts of the podcast where we talk about the round it was. So the round 3 review. So obviously this week, or last week, I should say, it was actually a decent round of footy. Like, I genuinely enjoyed some of the games. I know it was a bit different with the drinks breaks and just all the heat that was featuring most of the games, which I think played a part in some of the scorelines being so high scoring because both teams can't defend in the heat, and it makes the fatigue kick in. But all that section, what were your thoughts on round 3, and what did you make of the quality of most of the games?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a very wild round 3. Many teams who we didn't think would pick up the win did, such as the Titans picking up a win over the Storm, the Roosters picking up a win over South. I know a lot of people were tipping South to pick up that win, and also very recently the Raiders who picked up a close win over the Sharkies. So it has been a very wild round 3. We've seen some very tight games. Para, Manly, that was very close, and as well as my boys, the Tigers, coming up short against the Doggies, very close. And look, it's just been a very interesting round 3, a very entertaining. I don't think there was any game that really disappointed, and I thought it was a fantastic round, and yeah. A lot of surprises, a lot of upsets in this round, I'd say.
Yeah.
Lots of upsets. Even I should mention the Warriors picking up a win over the Cowboys. A very, very surprising win that was.
That was, yeah. I don't know many people that would have picked that. But I will say, with that game, before I released my tips, I actually was tipping the Warriors until I did change late because I thought Cowboys would be a team that I trust more at home, but got that really wrong, so I regret that heaps, and I learnt my lesson, hopefully. So I'm not making that same mistake again, where I just give my initial prediction and change it. So I'm not doing that one again. But no, I agree. Well said. It was a round full of upsets. I agree. I mean, no one really thought Titans would beat the Storm. Well, it's in the Gold Coast, but I don't think in general many people would have thought that they'd win. So it was just a big surprise that one. But, I think it was good to see, I guess, Titans get up for it. I will say that. I think Titans are a team on the rise that they are building, in my opinion. They get some unnecessary hate, in my opinion, but that's just me. But, the Storm, for me, will be back. There's no doubt about that. But I think just the injuries with Pappenhausen, Munster, Nelson's out as well. It's hurting them. It's affecting them.
Hughes is out. I'm pretty sure Hughes is out now as well.
Yeah, this week he is, yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, I know Munster's 50-50 to play, and if he does play, it's big. But if he's ruled out, and Bellamy won't take a risk, I don't think he's that type of coach that would do that. But if Munster and Hughes are out, and the halves are going to be, Tyron Wishart and Jonah Pezzett, that's, I don't know, Tigers could be in the box seat. I'm not just saying that because you're here, but they're in the box seat. There's no doubt about that. But, it was actually a good round, and obviously lucky my boys won on Thursday. It was, I couldn't sit down after that one, but, it was a really, really lucky win, but I'll take it as how it is, and we go into next week, or this week now. So, no, it was a good round, and hopefully round 4 is just as better, I hope. Now, Champa, who would be your round 3 player of the week? Like, who do you think this week was the player that stood out the most during round 3, and because there were a few, but just in general, who do you think was the best one out of the most?
Oh man, there is so much to choose. I could go that young Bulldog center. What's his name? Alamotti. He was absolutely amazing. Montoya as well was great. The Cheese, I feel like had a great game as well. But if I had to choose one player, it's a player that I wouldn't say a lot of people would choose as the player of the week. However, I feel like during this game was his breakout game, and I think he cemented himself as one of the best in his position. It's one of your boys. It's Olakau'atu. I'm going Ola Kawatu as player of the week. That game against Parramatta showed me that he is a top 5 back rower. I said it.
No
Ola
doubt.
Kawatu is a top 5 back rower. The double he scored against Parramatta. And look, Ola Kawatu just has that. He just runs his line so good. It's very, very similar to how Kikau used to run off Luai. It's hard, hitting the line hard. He hits those short balls really good. And he's a very, very intimidating player to tackle. You know, not a lot of people can really tackle him one-on-one, which makes it so great to have him on the back row, right on the edge. Yeah, Ola Kawatu, I know he did pledge his allegiance to Tonga, but I reckon if Brad Filler is I know it's early, but I reckon if Brad Filler's looking at his team list, Ola Kawatu, I think he'd be up there. He is a fair chance of making that Origin side, but that's a long way away. We're talking about round 3, and yeah, Ola Kawatu, this was his breakout game. This was the game. I mean, I always knew Ola Kawatu was a talented player, and I knew that he had potential to be one of the best in his position. I think this game just proved it. This was his shining game. This was his breakout game, and I have no doubt that next week against South, he's going to give it to the South's forwards. And Ola Kawatu versus Kulon Matangi.
Oh wow!
What a matchup that would be. The two
Mm.
Tongans, so good. But yeah, Ola Kawatu, player of the week for me.
I don't know actually if they're on the same side. I hope they are because Ola Kawatu is the right side. I don't know if Keon is the same side. I don't know. I hope they are though. So that'd be great.
Be very entertaining if they were.
Yeah, no, that'd be big. That will be big if they play against each other. But yeah, I like the choice. Ola Kawatu was great on Thursday. Got a double, and he's getting a lot better. Like his ceiling is that high. I think he can reach a lot of things in the age he is now because he's still pretty young. Like he's only 24, turning 25, so it's still a very young age.
Future in front of him.
Yeah, so I think if because he's openly said before that he wants to be an Origin player for the Blues, and hopefully Freddie gives him an opportunity some point this year because I think he should be at least considered in the reserves if anything.
Exactly.
So he's got big potential. But as for me, I'm going to give it to Payne Haas. I reckon. I think Payne Haas was really good in that Dragons game towards the end. I think if Payne Haas can learn to offload a bit more, his game will get a bit more dangerous, in my opinion, because I think his offloads, they gave momentum to Reece Walsh, to Staggs, to Cobbo. And when those guys play off the back of a big man like Haas running out the line and getting momentum, it creates havoc for the opposition. So I think with Haas, it's just like, if he can offload a bit more, watch out because we know what they can do. And that proved that against the Dragons game. Like 18 all, 9 minutes to go. And with 9 minutes, you'd think that the only tries that would happen would be another 2, which would make it 30 to 18 or 24-18. That's what I was expecting towards the end when a couple of the Broncos boys did score towards the end there. But 40-18, I do not know what happened towards the end there. But
Brisbane showed why they're. Yeah, I think Brisbane showed why they're a different team this year.
100%. So it was just obviously great to see them find a bit more of a better sort of game to play as compared to the other years. But just, look, I think Payne Haas, for me, is the player of the week. He's been really good this year so far, despite everything that's happened in the off-season. Definitely.
You see, Payne Haas, he's one of those forwards where he's almost the perfect forward. He's got the size. Yes. He's got the strength, the mobility. He's got a bit of speed on him as well. It's like he's the perfect forward. And honestly, he can be one of the best props in the game. Like I think he was at a time one of the best props in the game. I reckon he could pick up that form back as well. So that's a good choice he made, Payne Haas.
Yeah, he's definitely top 3 for sure in the prop category, no doubt. So that's that. All right, on to the topics now. So the very first topic, and it kicks off with a bang. And this one's going to be a bit controversial because I think a lot of people would be questioning Parramatta's chances if this was to be the case. But the Parramatta Eels, they lost on Thursday, round 2 and round 1. So now they're 0-3. But they play Panthers in round 4 this week, who come off a bye. Then round 5, they take on the Roosters, who come off a bye from round 4. So, they're playing teams who come off a week off. And I know that the next game that could be winnable against the Tigers, but just Panthers and Roosters after losing 3 straight games to start the year. the all out section, mate. What do you think about the Eels so far? Like, do you actually think they'll go 0-5? Because it's crazy if they do.
Well, this is kind of making my prediction of having Parramatta at 11th look very, very possible. But in all seriousness, not the expected start we would have expected from Parramatta. They've had some very tough games. You know, that Storm game at round one was a very tough one. Losing to the Sharkies as well, very close game that was, and you know, to your boys Manly, who just hung on at the end. They weren't blowout games. They were still very close, but you know, defensively, they shouldn't be having that much points scored against them. You can't win games with 30 plus points put on you. I mean, it's just a known fact. Something isn't working at Parramatta. I mean, it almost is, but isn't at the same time. Like in their attack, that they can. You know, I've seen in that attack, and even in that Manly match on Thursday, they can score points. They can score points, but I think it's their defense. The defense can go asleep at times. I don't know if it's the forwards. Look, they haven't played any day matches, so you can't really blame it on the heat. No. That I think there's some sort of fitness problem. Some players do look very gassed. I can admit that in that game against Manly, towards the end of the game, Parramatta did look a bit gassed, but something's not working there. I don't know what it is. I can't really pinpoint. I'm going to say defense. Defense is, I think, what's hurting Parramatta right now. And as of the possibility of them being 0-5, going up against Panthers and Roosters, I think that is very possible. It is probably more possible happening than Eels winning those games, because Panthers and Roosters are coming off both byes. So they will be fresh and rested. And yeah, look, I think Parramatta just got the unlucky side of the draw. They really did.
Yeah.
And look, I think the Moses situation is still a big factor. I know.
Definitely.
He always tells the media, "Oh, it's not a big factor. I have a manager that can handle that." I feel like it is. There's so much confusion on whether he's going to stay or go, and it's going to mess up Parramatta's future plans. So I think honestly, I'd say it's more defense. They need to really work on their defense, but I think the whole Moses situation is still a big factor. But honestly, I can actually see them going 0-5. I don't want to say that, but I can see it happening.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting how you brought up the Moses factor, because I agree. I think it is as well, because I think with his contract and him deserving, or not deserving obviously, but wanting more money, like I think that brings a concern to the rest of the playing group, because maybe if they see Moses asking for that money, they'll go in their head, where's my pay rise, or where's my extra couple of dollars? Like I think that's what some players would be thinking right now if that's the Eagles situation with Moses. But I think there's a real chance as well. I just want to say hello to Nick from Australia in the live chat. Hope you're doing well, bro. But look, obviously for me, I don't like Parramatta, and that's pretty clear because I'm a Manly supporter and the rivalry lives on, obviously, for me anyway. But I think 0-5 is very much possible. I think playing Penrith at CommBank may be a game they turn up at, because it's the grand final rematch, and I don't think they'll go to that game and expecting to lose, because it's just another grand final rematch that they should be ready for. Exactly. And if anything, that's the game they prepare for the most. So I'd say they'll be in that one, but Penrith are Penrith, and we know how good they are. Then the Roosters game, they could beat Roosters, because Roosters have been very inconsistent recently. They haven't really sprung to me as a top side as what everyone's been predicting. But I think if Parramatta are on, then they can definitely score a lot more points than what Roosters can. There's no doubt. So I think while it is disappointing that they have started 0-3, it's obviously terrible for them as a club. But they've been losing by 4 every week. So it's not like they've been awful, but it's just that if you look at how many points have leaked, round one was nothing bad, because it was only 16 points against Melbourne, but 30 against the Sharks and 34 against Manly. So really, that's just not good enough for a Parramatta standard. And the same team that made the grand final last year. So whether it's just adjusting to new combinations with Hodgson being there, and working on how they go through a game with that spine. Don't know, but really, I just don't think they've got the confidence at the moment. So
Mm.
could it be a 2018 repeat? Who knows?
Yeah, I would ask. Would you think there would need to be any sort of changes within their starting lineup? Do you think some players need to be dropped? I know they're still missing Madison and Sean Lane, but you see in that starting lineup, would you make any changes?
I don't know, not yet, but I think the only player that I might be leaning towards changing is Swagger Blake. I think Wagga Blake's been in really ordinary form. Um, people went off about his defense last year, and I think at first I was like, why? I don't think Wagga Blake's done anything wrong. But now I'm starting to see that domino effect of how each game goes and rolls in, and he just struggles to make the tackle or just read the player in front of him. So I think Wagga Blake's definitely a risk of being dropped sometime soon if his defense does not clear up. So it's early days, but Parramatta are definitely in a bit of trouble. I will say that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
On to the next topic now. Then this one's a bit close to my heart, I suppose, because it's about Manly, obviously, and there's a lot of talk about this young William Fafita, who I've seen myself is a very good young player. He's a front rower, played well in the trial matches this year against both Souths and the Roosters. And, he's been in the pathway system for a long time. Like, he's come through the grades with guys like Kyle Weeks, Josh Schuster, Gordon Chen, Tong. He's played with plenty of these guys coming through the grades and Kohler as well. So, he's obviously got a lot of connections at Manly, but the Dragons have recently come out and they want him. They want him and another player called Alec Tuatabaki, but I don't think without keeping him for what it seems like. But with Fafita, his potential is through the roof. Like, he's obviously a very damaging, very tall front rower. And once he makes his debut in the NRL, I think a lot of people will start talking about him. So I know all that section maybe you haven't seen as much of this sort of talk with Fafita and his contract, but obviously there was a lot about it last week. But from what you've seen so far, do you think it's right that Manly stay firm and keep Fafita because he's under contract, or do you think releasing him to the Dragons give him an opportunity?
Well, I did take the time to look more at Fafita's highlights, as I wasn't very familiar with the player, and I can see what you mean by the potential that this kid has. He's a very strong runner, very good forward, and like you said, once he makes his NRL debut, I reckon a lot of eyes are going to be turned on this young player. However, for Manly to say that he isn't leaving until his contract is finished at 2024. Look, contracts, they're a bit of a mess at times. Sometimes players abide by it. Sometimes, rules are just thrown out of the window and it's willy-nilly. But look, if Manly are keen on keeping keeping Fafita until 2024 when his contract does end, and if Fafita does want to abide by his contract and finish it out, I don't see the issue with it. That they are following the rules within the contract. If I reckon Dragons will probably still try to make some offers to get him early, but I think Manly and Fafita, they're just following the rules. Look, I will admit, when it comes to contracts, I'm not the brightest mind when it comes to this conversation, but I think even me can see that if Manly are saying we want Fafita wants to uphold his contract and leave in 2024, then I don't see the issue there. So that's just my take on it.
Yeah, no, look, that's fair enough, and I think that's a fair point you make. It's interesting though because the CEO has said that Fafita wants to stay at Manly, but his manager, Fafita's manager, apparently is saying that if there's opportunity at Dragons and if there's an opportunity to play first grade, then the Dragons are the club he'll actually go to. So there's a real mix-up, and this has actually made an issue between the CEO, Tony Mestroff, and Fafita's manager. So there's a bit of an issue now, and this is not good because Fafita's manager also manages Olakuatu, Schuster, and some other guys in our team. So we don't need that havoc happening. But anyway, no, look, I hope we keep him. He's definitely a player that I really liked watching in the trials, and I think he's got a big future in front of him. Only 22 years old, so look, a big potential coming up if he can stay. I guess stay in that first grade frame. But if he goes, look, it is what it is. We can't keep him more, obviously. But if it's true that he wants to stay at Manly, and obviously the CEO would not lie about that if he does. So, look, if he stays, it's great. But if he goes, then it's just another story about a young player leaving. It's nothing major unless they become something good elsewhere. But it's a bit messy, the situation. But hopefully we do keep him. As a Manly fan, I hope we stay firm and keep him. All right. On to the third topic now. And I hate bringing up abuse or that section, but again, it's just happened with this time being the next victim, Kyle Felt. And I think his missus has this time come into the whole abuse thing and stood up for Felt. So, from what I read, this was like really new how I read all this. And this was like last night when I first found out about the Felt abuse. And what it was about was the game he had on Saturday against the Warriors. Yeah, he didn't have the greatest game, but I think, the players, or no, sorry, not the players, but the fans that criticise him, I think it's a case where the fans need to calm down because, obviously the Cowboys lost and it's not great when you lose a game, and maybe some players have a mistake or two in their game, but I think the abuse someone like Felt's copped, whether that's from Cowboys fans or just fans in general, like, it's not good because abuse, doesn't have a place in the game. Like, whether it's racial, like we talked about like last week, and whether it's like online abuse, like I think another player that's actually been the victim of online abuse is Ronaldo Mulatalo and his mother, like getting threats thrown to her as well. So, it's just ridiculous. Like, what do you think about it, bro? Like, it's just, when's it gonna end? It's just too much now at this point.
It's a typical redneck mentality that these fans have, where if a player doesn't perform to the standards that they want, then they'll absolutely shit on them. Wasn't Jackson Puller a perfect example of how online abuse can literally lead a player out of the club? And I'm not saying that Felt would ever do the same at the Cowboys, but it's just an example of how these players, this sort of abuse doesn't pass by their mind. This is something that this it does take a toll on them, and I commend Kyle Felt's wife for coming in and really stepping to the firing line and just letting these trolls and these idiots know that what they're saying is just totally not needed. Like, yeah, he didn't have the best game. That doesn't take away the career and the talent that he has. And if it is the Cowboys fans doing it, like, I don't get the logic of now. I don't get the logic of abusing your own player, just for what? Just for a laugh. Now, I've been very critical of West Tigers players, especially players like Luke Brooks, for example. However, I would never. I criticize their gameplay and I criticize their overall talent. I would never go as far as to give them online abuse, harassment, death threats, God forbid. Never will I ever, even think about going that far. And this is what these fans are doing, and it's sad to see that we have these sort of fans in our game. To quote Jason Demetrios in the press conference last week, get him out of the game. We don't need their support, 100%. No matter what it is. So I hope Felt's doing well, and I hope he kills it now this week. I really hope he does. And to those fans out there, mate, just have a good look at yourself. I mean, come on. Look, there's a reason why Felt is on that field. Yeah, he may not have the best game, but keep in mind he's on that field, and you're just a fan. Just keep that in mind.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's the best example I could probably give there. And unfortunately, there's a lot of fans who talk a lot, but don't get the same success or won't ever achieve of like what that player does in their own lifetime. So it's just one of those things that I think the fans just need to calm down a bit. That's all. But yeah, like I totally agree. Like, it's just I mean, abuse has no place in the game. Like I said, whether it's racial, whether it's online abuse, whether it's family, like directed family member abuse, whether it's any of that, it just has to stop. Like it has to stop. It needs to be aimed to make it end because I think there's already been enough, players been targeted. So, it's disappointing to see. I really hope Phil's doing okay because I know that probably will affect him a little bit, but hopefully it's with a new round coming up. He goes ahead and has a big game against the Titans. Like that's all I can hope for Phil if he wants to bounce back from the game he had against the Warriors, which, like I said, wasn't great, but he definitely bounced back and shut all the haters off. That's all I hope for Phil in that case. All right, second last topic. Okay, well, this is another tough one because as we know, the Storm have been up there for so long on top of the ladder. It's really rare to see them drop as low as 12, where they currently are right now. And yes, there's injuries, there's heaps of players out for Melbourne every week, etc. But that's no excuse to letting 26 points against the Bulldogs and 38 points against the Titans. Like that's unheard of for a Melbourne Storm side to let that many points be put on them by them sides. So I don't know what it is. I really don't. Maybe Melbourne's golden era is coming to a slight end potentially, or it's just that the players are just not reacting anymore. Like who knows? Maybe the players have just gotten over Bellamy's tough mentality or just winning mentality. Like it's just a really interesting situation the Melbourne Storm are in right now. So whether they do bounce back anytime soon, I don't know, but it has to be this week because they played Tigers this week, and yeah, it's a winnable game, but they have players out, so it's a tough one to tip actually that one as well. I mean, they have to win this week. They have to because they played the Roosters, Rabbitohs, and Manly all coming up in the next 3 weeks after the Tigers game. So that there is a real challenge and a half. But all that section, what do you make of the Storm's form so far? Are they falling off a cliff?
Well, yeah, like you said, this isn't a usual start to the Melbourne Storm that we're very used to in the past. I reckon it's a mixture of a lot of things. I think the decline of Melbourne is starting with Bellamy soon out the door, as well as just a whole heap of losses. Keep in mind they did lose the Bromwiches, they lost Kafusi, Brendan Smith is also gone. So they have lost a lot in terms of their players, and I think it's also a mixture of injuries as well. Keep in mind, literally, 3/4 of their spine is gone now with Hughes ruled out. So
big loss.
I think what it comes to now with the Melbourne Storm is who stands up for them now. Is it because most of the Storm's leaders are gone. Nelson Asofa-Solomona, he usually leads the forward pack. Munster, Hughes show direction in the half. Pappenhausen, barking orders and fullback, they're all gone. So who stands up? Is it Harry Grant? Arguably probably the only good player that they have left. Does he step up in that dummy half position? Is it the two young halves, Wishart and Prezet? Do they stand up in the half position? I mean, look, it's a very, very young, inexperienced half combination, and is it Nick Meaney, and I think he's been doing all right in that fullback position, but who stands up in that Melbourne Storm team? They go up against the Tigers. Now, granted, the Tigers haven't had the best start as well. In fact, they've had a much more worse start than the Melbourne Storm, but this is also a West Tigers team that isn't suffering from a lot of injuries and has really a full roster compared to the Melbourne Storm with Munster, Nelson, Asofa-Solomona, Hughes all out. So I think this week would show if they're really on a decline or not. They need to beat the Tigers. They should beat the Tigers, but I don't know if it's 100% that they will beat the Tigers. But I do see a decline happening for the Storm. They are not the top. They're not the top 4 guarantees that we're used to seeing. And look, maybe when they get all their players back, they bounce back and they show the competition that they're still in it. But it's going to be a very dark period throughout these next few rounds for Melbourne Storm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, where Melbourne goes to next, if they don't win like this week, who knows? Like you said, maybe it's a real dark period they go through if they don't win this week against the Tigers. Because as I said, it's actually in this order after the Tigers game. It's the Rabbitohs at a call, then it's Roosters at Melbourne, I think, and then they take on Manly at Brookie. So, they could really lose all those 3 games if they're not careful. And the Tigers game becomes so important for them. I mean, Tigers do have a habit of turning up in Melbourne. They do. History has proven that before. But whether they win or not, look, we'll wait for Saturday. But with Melbourne, it's weird because I think it's for so long they've been always around that second to third position or first, and here they are now struggling to even make the 8, and hence the 4. I know it's a bit too early to say this sort of stuff, but I think top 4 for Melbourne Storm is already off, in my opinion. I don't see them getting there now. I think there's too many other good clubs that have proven that they'll continue their momentum this year, make it. So I think for the Storm, at best, top 8's the aim, but top 4 is it's realistic, but it's hard. So I do think they're still a dangerous team at best, but it's just about, I guess, getting your best players back in the field when they can, because I think when they get their full team back, they're dangerous. But like I said, it's not an excuse for how they letting that many points against the Titans, especially because if you let the Titans put 38 points on you, then there's something wrong with the club and the players. So
exactly, and this was a Titans team that had 30 points put on them by the Dragons the previous week. So
yeah, exactly.
Very, very concerning signs for the Storm, no doubt.
Yeah. It's a real concern, definitely. And see, if Melbourne don't turn it around anytime soon, then it's going to be the first time that I'd say that their top 8 hopes are in jeopardy. I've never said that before, so it'd be weird saying that.
It's a very young side that they're fielding against the Tigers. Very, very young in experience, and it's they just need to stand up. Honestly, they need to stand up and really just dig in.
Yeah. So we'll see how they go. I'm just looking at the comments. I'm sorry. But no, look, I think Storm should be okay. But I think, it's not the ideal start, is it? All right.
I just saw the comments as well. Sorry, Luke, Melbourne Storm fan.
Hopefully they bounce back for you, Luke. All right. Last topic now, number 5. Now this one was a weird statement. It's a really weird statement, as both sides not played yet, and it's not a certain rivalry. It should be a rivalry. There's no doubt about that. But if you're saying that the Broncos v Dolphins thing is the next Roosters and Rabbitohs rivalry, then oh my god, does this Tony Reader CEO know what he's talking about? Clearly not. So to make a comparison like that is a bit shocking and disrespectful to the Roosters and Rabbitohs, in my opinion. You can't just go ahead and say that. I know that it makes the game bigger because both sides have not lost the game yet, Dolphins and Broncos, but come on. Roosters and Rabbitohs have been going for over 100 years as a rivalry. You're really going to say that this Broncos and Dolphins one, which is so current and so new, it's going to be like that? That's a weird statement. What are your thoughts on that section?
Look, I've been so critical about this rivalry. It's a manufactured rivalry. They're forcing it so hard. We get it. The Dolphins are situated in Brisbane. So is the Broncos. I get it. It's some sort of derby. But come on, these teams haven't played yet. How can you call it a rivalry? And to say it's better than South versus Roosters? Are you kidding me? I don't even claim the Dolphins to be Brisbane's greatest rivals. It's still the Cowboys. So much history between the Broncos and the Cowboys. Literally no history between Brisbane and the Dolphins. Literally none.
Nothing.
To say it's bigger than South versus Roosters, I don't know if he was taking the mickey out of that or if he was actually being dead set serious. And if he was...
Mate, he's stupid.
I can't. I don't know what to say. Look, there's an old saying: it's better to keep your mouth shut and have people think you're stupid than to open it and prove them right. And what he's done, he's opened it and he's spilled out garbage. So, to the Dolphins CEO, look, look. The Dolphins are flying high right now, but to make a claim like that, it's look. I get it. Respect everyone's opinion, but it's wrong. It's wrong. And look, what happens if Broncos Dolphins this week? What happens if that game flops? What happens if both teams low scoring? It's a 12-10 points, and both teams play like ass. Oh wow, this is the next number one rivalry. Get fucked.
Worst like possible to the next best rivalry, if anything.
Exactly.
So.
I do think it's going to be a great game, and I have no doubt it's going to be probably even close to a sellout, maybe, but it's not that. It's not bigger than Roosters, Rabbitohs, and the Dolphins aren't even Brisbane's greatest rivals. It's still the Cowboys, and I believe it's going to be the Cowboys for a long time. So yeah. But like look, to bring some sort of example to those who watch the Premier League, I'm a Manchester United fan. Manchester City, it's a derby, but they're not our greatest rivals. Our greatest rivals are Liverpool. And that's, I guess that's some sort of comparison that even if you are situated within the same sort of area, that doesn't automatically mean you guys are rivals. And yeah, that's just my take.
Yeah, no, look, definitely. And, I think, but like just in general, to make a claim like that, just to say that, look, this new rivalry is going to be as big as the Roosters and Rabbitohs, it's just a bit stupid to even say that. And to be fair, I've never heard of this, like, Tony Reader bloke before. I've never heard of him. So I hope he watches footy because he's making the wrong sort of opinions so far. But, yeah, look, like, for example, like you said before, if it becomes a shit game and it flops, the Dolphins and Broncos won, then yeah, like, does that really make it the hype like worth it in the end? Because it just literally failed, as everyone thought it'd be a great game. Or maybe, for example, Broncos win 13 plus. Like, what if Broncos win like, I don't know, 34-6 or something and shock everyone? Like, it's just, you can't say that sort of stuff without knowing what's actually going to happen on the game, like day itself. So, ridiculous statement to make there, and I disagree with it completely. I think the Dolphins CEO needs to show a bit more respect and a bit more of a noticed take on how the Roosters and the Roosters and the Rabbitohs have been doing it for years now. So yeah, no, you can't say that this new rivalry is as big as that. No way at all.
Yeah.
So.
I think what they're really trying to write off is the whole Bennett thing. How Bennett left Brisbane, and how you have you got some Brisbane players heading to the Dolphins next year. But look, mate, Ivan clearly left the Tigers on bad terms to go to the Panthers. That doesn't make the Panthers versus the Tigers a rivalry. Like, come on.
No, it doesn't. That's what media beat up.
Yeah, it's exactly. And the rivalry is between Bennett and the Brisbane Broncos. It's not the Dolphins, okay? That's just it's a stupid claim, and yeah, very unvalid.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, look, I'm looking forward to the game on Friday. Like, I genuinely am looking forward to it, but we'll see if this game even has that rivalry feeling. So we'll find out on Friday, I guess, for that one. But until then, everyone, that does wrap up the Ankle Breaker Podcast, episode 53. So, everyone, thanks again for a great episode. Thank you for tuning in and taking time out of your night to watch this good episode. It was a good show, and I enjoyed it. Hopefully, it's another big week of footy coming up, as there's always something big happening. So, just hopefully everyone's team this week goes well. So, your section, thank you for yet again joining me on the Ankle Breaker Podcast for another episode. I do appreciate it.
Mate, thank you for having me on. Episode 3 was a great episode. Thanks to everyone in the audience for watching, tuning in. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Stay tuned next week, Monday, episode 54. Hey, yep. I'm sure throughout this whole week we're gonna have some great topics in store for that latest episode. But thank you, Pro Enzo, having me on. Thank you everyone for watching. This has been the Ankle Breaker Podcast.
That's it. Yeah, so again, thank you for watching, everyone. Please go and check out the All That Sections YouTube channel as well if you haven't already. His YouTube is linked in the description down below, so please go and check him out if you haven't already. But again, it's been a good episode. I've enjoyed it, and I'll see you all back next Monday. So thank you, everyone. See you next Monday. Enjoy your footy this
See you
week.
guys.